Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristen Hassen, and I am so excited to be here with you today.
And I am Jackson Galaxy, and I'm more happy than Kristen is.
Uh, I think the last time I got to speak with you all was 2019, and Jackson, it might have been even a little bit longer for you. And we are so glad to be here today to help kick off one of my very favorite conferences. And last time I got to speak with you, we talked about so many different topics, and from foster care to adoptions, to helping people keep their pets when they're struggling. And today we're going to focus on three main subjects. For the past few years, Jackson and I have been working together in shelters across the United States. And we've been working to not just improve those shelters, but really transform how they serve pets and people. And so today we're going to share a few of the lessons that we've learned over the last few years. I think combined, I've been in this movement since 1999. Jackson, how long has it been for you?
Unfortunately, all the way back to 92.
And we have seen hundreds of animal shelters around the world. And everywhere you go, the situation's unique, and yet everything's also the same. And so we hope what we share with you today will really help you for the next few days think about how you absorb the information you're going to hear. You're going to hear from incredible speakers on all kinds of subjects, and you may even feel overwhelmed at times and like it's just too much information, or you may feel like, great, but I'm going to go back to my animal shelter. And when I say shelter, I'm referring to those of you that work in private shelters and those of you that work in what were known as municipal pounds. I'm going to go back, I'm going to get back to work. And, a lot of this I might not implement, but we're going to ask you to think now about how you want to use the lessons you learn during this conference. So I'm going to share three ideas for you to consider, and then we're going to talk a little bit about those. Okay, the first one is that moving forward, we challenge you to ask, why are we doing it this way about virtually everything in your organization? This is something animal shelters are not always great at. We work in crisis, we're really busy, we just kind of do things the way we've always done them. And what has happened in a lot of shelters is that we have bureaucracy, red tape, processes we don't need, and a lot of barriers that have been built in over years, or we simply have processes that don't work that well for animals and people. I'll give you one example. We recently worked with a large shelter that required each animal that was adopted to go through 4 different staff members in 4 different departments, and then have a medical exam and vaccines at the time they exited the system. And as you can imagine, this made the process take so much longer than it needed to. And that shelter needed to ask, why are we doing it this way? And when they looked into why they were doing what they were doing, it was simply that they had put in some checks and balances, they had put in some extra rules that maybe they didn't really need, and they were able to make that process much smoother and reduce that to 2 people that needed to interact with that adopter. So that's what we mean is, while you're at this conference and while you're learning new things, if you think, well, I don't know if we could do that, we want you to ask yourself, why are we doing it the way we are? And is there a better way to do it? So that's number one. Number two is that if there is one thing we see everywhere, it's that animal shelter professionals, animal welfare professionals say the word no a lot. We hear no way more than we want to. Can we try this new pilot program? No, we can't do that. Can we let this dog go to a foster home instead of sitting in the shelter? No, we can't do that. Can we adopt this cat out to a home with other cats? No. And the no often comes from a good place. We want to protect the animals in our care. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. We're following the rules. But those no's, they add up. And we see them add up into a situation where animal shelters make it much harder than they need to get the work done. They also keep animals in their shelters much longer than they need to, and sometimes even take in animals that they could have been served another way, all because they say no. So we want you during this conference, and when you leave here, this is the most important thing we're going to tell you is, Practice for a week saying yes every time you want to say no. And if you find yourself saying no, for every one time you say no, you should give 5 yeses. And if you find that that ratio, that balance is off, you have some work to do. So our second tip, our second guide is that you say yes more often. Finally, we want to encourage you to think about a totally different system for animal welfare. This is a hard ask, and I think when we talk about this, it tends to sound a little bit like a dream, something that's impossible. You know, we're going to have to keep doing things the way we've always done them because that's how they work. But that's not how change happens. If you think about the cell phones that we all carry today, back in the 1950s, you could see movies and cartoons depict people with phones at their ear that were cellular that didn't have cords attached to them. And in the 1950s, that would have been seemed impossible. People would have thought that's never going to happen. But they did, and that's because someone imagined the idea. And so we want to invite you and encourage you to imagine a system that serves animals much differently. For me, that imagination has kept me grounded in foster care as the primary solution for the vast majority of pets that need our help. I believe a foster-centric model where foster care is the norm for every pet is the future of animal sheltering. But for you, that vision might be different. But whatever your vision is, don't settle for the status quo. The part B to that, and the last thing that I want to share related to that number 3 is that the answers that we find will not be rooted in black and white thinking or binaries or this thing, not that thing. It won't be rooted in no kill versus anti no kill or adopt this type of animal, but never this type of animal. These solutions will be more complex, they'll be more nuanced, and that's because every animal and every person is an individual. And we can't forget that as we try to solve the big problem, we must remember that we're dealing with individuals and that context really matters. So we want to encourage you, though, to think about those big system solutions that could really transform the way that we do work. So just to reiterate, those 3 things are number 1, ask, why do we do it this way? And is there a way we could do it better? Number 2, practice saying yes, even when you want to say no. And number 3, imagine a different world for animals and people and for animal sheltering and the services we provide. So Jackson, did I sum those up okay?
You don't know, okay, and it's funny. I'm sitting here writing, and we've been through this so many times together, both experientially and teaching, and I still have things, and I think that that's one of the things that I really value in our work together because just sitting here reliving those moments of ask why and say yes, you start thinking of new things. And I did while we were talking. And one of the things I wanted to add in there was to tell you guys just a quick story about the first time that Kristen and I ever worked together. And Kristen was running an amazingly progressive shelter in Tucson, Arizona, and I was going there to launch a program based around environmental enrichment for cats, catification, and this big idea that I had about transforming all shelters into cat playlands. And we started touring the shelter together, and I was in the middle of saying, well, I imagine this and this. And Kristen just stops me and goes, so my question is, why are we trying to house cats in the dog pound? And stop me, and all the big ideas and all of the things that I had cemented in my head. And because I was allowed in that one moment to think, yeah, why? And why can't we do that differently? And who says? And all of the work that I've been doing since then has hinged on that moment. And I think that that's a pretty fabulous thing from a personal standpoint. The other thing, because I want this for everybody who's watching this, that the freedom of saying, I value my experience with animals. I value my imagination and my blue sky for these animals. I value the systems that are in place to whatever degree they still serve that vision. But I want to have that vision heard. that saying yes to yourself, saying yes to that, your higher self that's trying to like knock at the door and say, wait, I have an idea. That's also, you're not just saying yes to things outside yourself. I think we're conditioned in a certain way to just, color inside the lines. And, part of this what if is what if the lines didn't exist? And that's one of the things I think would be a great takeaway. Remembering that you could say no to a whole lot of things in the next, however many sessions you attend. And it could be because of budget. Now we can't do that. We don't have the money for that. We've tried that before and it didn't work. We don't have the people power to do that. We don't have the volunteer staff. We don't have whatever it is. But to harken back to my story about Tucson, if there's one thing that you come away with, if you embrace one thing that resonated both for you on a personal level and organizational level, then take that and run with it. Put it on a whiteboard, reference it back, try to filter through whatever else you're seeing, because if you have that one point of light that you can take back to your work life and to your passions, it will have an effect. It will be this amazing light that all the information filters down from. The last thing I wanted to mention, because what better thing than my own story, which is I got to tell you that I wouldn't be here with Kristen, with all of you guys. I wouldn't have had a career if there were lines for me to color within when I first started. This is back in 1992. I had just started work at the shelter, and the cats liked me. And everywhere I'd go, the cats would sort of gather around me, and it was a little embarrassing. And it was also embarrassing is my friends on the staff all started calling me Cat Boy, which was terrible. And I still am in therapy over that. But I think in the long run, what had to happen was I had to become the voice for these cats. I had very little experience with cats. There were no books. The amount of books that were written on cat behavior are probably back there, and there's three of them. And all I could do was spend time with them, learn about the system they were in, learn about their ideal world, what made them tick, and also what made people not understand them. I made up my own language trying to make that happen. And the long and short of it is, I was able to eventually ask my boss at that shelter, is it okay if I went to this person's house because they just called? And I think if I went over there right now, I could stop her from surrendering that cat. She said yes. And that's why I'm here all these years, 30 years later. That's why I'm here, because she said yes, because I had some bright idea. And so whether you are in an administrative position where you get to be the person to say yes to others, or whether you're the person who says, I have a bright idea, I think that what you're going to hear is going to help bring that voice out in its most loudest way. That's what I
I
had to
think
say.
I really appreciate that, because I think the last time I spoke at G2Z, I remember there was just so many seasoned, experienced leaders in the room, so many people that have been doing this work tirelessly for decades. And it's an interesting time because with all the technology changes, I'm speaking later today, I believe, about AI. All of the new developments that are happening, everything that's possible today that wouldn't have been, it's our job as leaders to say yes and to create that space. Like the same, you had a great leader because they said yes to you. And everyone who's at this conference oversees someone, whether it's a volunteer, staff members, maybe you oversee a whole team, maybe it's your adopters. You have power to influence and inspire people. And the best way to do that is to help people do that thing they want to do to help make animals' lives better. And that is going to be so important moving forward, because the reality is we didn't fix it. And I think it's a hard lesson to sit with. Like, we did so much, we've come so far, but the problems aren't solved. And the problems aren't solved because we know we still have animals languishing in our shelters. We know we still have animals that we just can't get them to the right place, or vulnerable simply because they went into the wrong shelter at the wrong time. Like there's so much more work to do. And so our job now is to make space for all of these new ideas to come to life so that we can get to that next level now. We haven't hit that end yet. We've still got so much more to go.
Agreed. And I'm excited. I'm sitting here like we're talking, and I have that sense of excitement that I get whenever I am at one of these conferences because the exchange of ideas is so valuable. And I think that that's one other thing that I was actually going to bring up was that change sometimes happens when you don't expect it, and I think a lot of times we don't change until we're forced into that space of having to. Here in LA, a lot of the rescue organizations would had a hard no if you didn't consent to a home visit before bringing that animal home, which thinking about the volume that we deal with, you know, never going to work. And we're talking 20 years of saying no. The pandemic hit. What are you going to do? All of a sudden, those same groups were championing drive-by adoptions, Zoom home visits, and it changed their landscape permanently. And nobody ever went back because they got the job done. They felt like they did their best for that animal, and they created a new way of thinking around it. It's available to us every day.
Yeah, I think it is. And as you're navigating this next few days of this conference, you have some of the best speakers. Nell does an amazing job bringing in fantastic speakers. The lineup is so exciting. These folks know what they're talking about and are also successful in the work they're doing. And so you're going to have a lot of opportunities to learn, and it's a good time to choose kind of the areas where you know that you need to make changes in your organization. You know you need to do something a little bit differently than you've been doing it. And also to remember that I think I probably speak for everyone. We love it when people reach out to us and ask us questions. Like conferences are a way to meet people who can help you. They're not the end of the conversation. They're really just a beginning. And so we hope that you'll connect with some of the speakers and figure out if you are worried, like you want to try something, but you're worried about liability, or you're worried about cost, or you're worried that you don't have the staff. That is a great introduction, and then you can reach out to them to get more information or to troubleshoot with them. All of us who speak at these conferences, we're here because we want to be, and we care deeply about you and the work you do. The right answers are out there. They haven't all been tried yet, but many of them are being tried, and many more will be. And all of us who are speaking want to be here to help you. So, well, we're really excited about the conference. Can't wait to see how the sessions go. And just so glad to be here with you today, and want to thank you for all the work you're doing. It is a tremendously challenging time for so many reasons, for so many folks, for animals, and it can feel endless, but we are helping so many animals, and we see your stories of success and your challenges every day, and know that folks who are literally across the world from you are watching and just admiring all the work you're doing.
Couldn't say it any better myself. I'm excited for you. Wish we were there in person, but we'll just collect the vibes from here. And I hope you have a fantastic time and change the world.
Thanks, everybody, and welcome.